Hello and welcome to this video on Act 4, Scene 2 of Macbeth. Now, before we get into the scene, we're going to do a quick knowledge check. So I've got 4 questions for you. So pause the video, jot down your answers to the questions, do your best with them, and then start the video again when you're ready. Okay, so the first one, a tyrant or someone who leads with tyranny. So a tyrant is a cruel leader who exploits people for his own ends or her own ends, I suppose. It's the kind of leader who's like Macbeth, who leads with cruelty, with violence, who represses other people, who doesn't want anyone to disagree with them, and does this so that they can have control, they can have power, they can have money. So it's for their own benefit and not to help anyone else. The killing of Duncan, well, we know that Macbeth stabs him, but that happens off stage. Remember, at this time, Shakespeare can't show the killing of a monarch on stage. And then the killing of Banquo contrasts with that because that happens on stage. And that shows a real turning point for Macbeth because now he's prepared not to just kill for the crown, but to kill his best friend because he's worried about losing the crown. And the prophecy about Macduff was to beware Macduff. Okay, in this video, we're going to contrast Lady Macbeth and a new character who's called Lady Macduff. This is Macduff's wife, and she's at home in her castle in a part of Scotland called Fife, and she's there with her children, while Macduff has gone to England to see Malcolm. Now, stop the video and draw the Venn diagram out, and then start the video again when you're ready. Okay, so this Venn diagram is going to help us to compare and contrast these two characters. So I want you to concentrate just on the section that's just about Lady Macbeth and jot down some thoughts about what you already know about her character and then start the video again when you're ready. You can include keywords, quotations, ideas, whatever you want. Okay, so stop the video, have a couple of minutes to do that and then start again when you're ready. Okay, these are my thoughts. You might have lots more ideas that I don't have on the screen here. So stop the video again, read through what I've put, add to your own ideas in a different colour of pen, and then start the video again and we're going to find out about Lady Macduff. So in this scene, Lady Macduff is in her castle in a part of Scotland called Fife. Her son is on stage, but she does have other children who are in the castle somewhere. We don't see them, but we know that they're there. And Ross has come to bring her a message. Now, we don't know exactly what this message is, but we can make a pretty good guess that the message is that Macduff has left to go to England. And Lady Macduff is absolutely horrified at getting this news. So the scene starts with her saying, what had he done to make him fly the land? So Lady Macduff's initial assumption is that Macduff has done some kind of treachery. He's been traitorous towards Macbeth. He's done something wrong and now he's got to run away to get safety somewhere else. And Ross tries to calm her down and he says, you must have patience, madam. Lady Macduff will not be calm. She says he had none. His flight was madness. When our actions do not, our fears make us traitors. So she says his running away was absolutely insane. It was madness. Even if he isn't a traitor, even if he hasn't betrayed Macbeth, he looks like he has because he's run away. And Ross says, look, you don't know the whole story. You know not whether it was his wisdom or his fear. It's clear that Lady Macduff doesn't know that Macduff has gone to England to meet Malcolm to try and raise an army. And she continues wisdom to leave his wife, to leave his babes, his mansion and his titles in a place from whence himself does fly. He loves us not. So she scoffs at this idea that Macduff has had a good reason to leave. And she says if he's too scared to stay here himself and therefore he's run away, why has he left me, his wife and his children undefended in this place, which is incredibly dangerous? And she says the only conclusion that I can draw is that he doesn't love us. So she's really critical of her husband. Okay, let's go back to our Venn diagram. Now, I want you to stop the video and have a think. What could you write down that could compare Lady Macbeth and Lady Macduff in that middle section? And what could you write that is just about Lady Macduff? So stop the video, take a couple of minutes to jot down your thoughts, and then start the video again when you're ready. Right, here are my thoughts. You can see that I've moved this idea of being critical of their husbands because both women are critical. Lady Macbeth was critical of Macbeth's compassion, his kindness, his lack of cruelty, his lack of violence off the battlefield. Lady Macduff is kind of critical of the opposite. She says he loves us not. She's critical of her husband because she thinks he doesn't love them and he's just abandoned them in a dangerous situation. Unlike Lady Macbeth, Lady Macduff comes across as much more vulnerable, and she's also importantly a mother. So a lot of the staging of this scene is about emphasizing the fact that the Macduffs have children, and all the way through the scene, one of those children is on stage, and he meets a pretty grisly end at the end of the scene. Sorry for the spoiler alert. So as a real emphasis on her motherhood here. And we know that one of the things that motivates Macbeth and Lady Macbeth is their lack of children, and perhaps they're trying to compensate for that by keeping hold of the crown. And we know that they're both tormented by the fact that they have no one to pass the crown on to in the next generation. Okay, let's go back to the scene. So Lady Macduff continues, he wants the natural touch, for the poor wren, the most diminutive of birds, will fight her young ones in her nest against the owl. We've had lots of bird images all the way through the play, and now we have a couple more. And the wren is known at this time in Scotland as being really small, really weak. It's not a predator, it's not a fighting bird. But Lady Macduff says that no matter how weak the wren is, it will fight to protect her young ones in her nest. And it's going to fight against the owl. We've heard about the owl earlier on in the play, and the owl represents Macbeth. So Lady Macduff here insists that no matter how weak she is, no matter how vulnerable, how fragile she is, she's going to stand up against tyranny and try and protect her children. Unlike her husband, is the point. And she continues, all is the fear and nothing is the love, as little is the wisdom, where the flight so runs against all reason. And Ross again tries to calm her down. My dearest coz, I pray you school yourself, as in control yourself, control your emotions here, as if telling anyone to calm down has helped them. Anyway, but for your husband, he is noble, wise, judicious, and best knows the fits of the season. I dare not speak much further, but cruel are the times when we are traitors and do not know ourselves, when we hold rumour from what we fear, yet know not what we fear, but float upon a wild and violent sea each way and move. I take my leave of you. That image of the wild and violent sea is a really good representation of what's happening in Scotland at the minute. Everything is in tumult, everything is in chaos, everyone is in danger. And then he says, I take my leave of you, so I'm going to leave you. So Lady Macduff has just been complaining about how her husband has abandoned her, how she's not safe, she's in a dangerous situation, and now we have another man who's going to leave her on her own. But he says, don't worry, she'll not be long, but I'll be here again. Things at worst will cease, or else climb upward to what they were before. My pretty cousin, blessing upon you. So he turns to the child here and says, blessing upon you. It's incredibly ironic given what's about to happen at the end of the scene. Lady Macduff says, fathered he is, and yet he's fatherless. And Ross ignores that and says, I am so much a fool, should I stay longer? It would be my disgrace and your discomfort. I take my leave at once. So he exits pretty quickly. Okay, keep this idea, the image of the poor wren in your head, the tiny bird that's going to fight against the predatory owl. And let's see what we can add to our Venn diagram. You can see that I've put it here in the middle. So both women are really determined in different ways, but both incredibly determined. Lady Macduff is prepared to fight to defend her children, whatever it takes. Right, then the next part of the scene, Lady Macduff turns to her son and says, Sirrah, your father's dead, and what will you do now? How will you live? Now, this can be a little bit confusing for us because Macduff isn't dead, he's just gone to England. Some people think that Lady Macduff is just trying to test her son here to see how he reacts, to see if he's masculine. So maybe a little bit Lady Macbeth vibes. Anyway, the son says, as birds do, mother. And what? With worms and flies? With what I get, I mean, and so do they. Poor bird, thou'dst never fear the net nor lime, the pitfall nor the gin. Why should I, mother? Poor birds they are not set for. My father is not dead for all you're saying. So there's a bit of banter between the son and the mother, and the son insists that he knows that Macduff isn't dead. And Lady Macduff insists that he is. Yes, he is dead. How wilt thou do for a father? And the son replies, nay, how will you do for a husband? So he's being a little bit cheeky. He's turning lines back on his mum, just the way kind of cheeky children and teenagers do. And Lady Macduff says, why, I can buy me 20 at any market. And the son, then you'll buy them to sell again. Thou speaks with all thy wit, and yet in faith with wit enough for thee. And then the scene becomes a little bit more serious. Was my father a traitor, mother? Aye, that he was. What is a traitor? And this, in a sense, is one of the main questions that the play is asking us. What is a traitor? So before we read the next bit, pause the video. I want you to jot down what you think a traitor is in the play, and then start the video again when you're ready. Okay, so we've had quite a few traitors. We've had MacDonald in Act 1, Scene 2, who betrays King Duncan, gets his head chopped off and put on the battlements as a warning to other people not to betray the king. We've had the original Thane of Cawdor, who again has betrayed King Duncan and is executed for it. And then we have Macbeth, who betrays King Duncan. So a traitor is someone who, for their own ends, betrays their king, someone who puts their own desire for power, their own desire for money above the needs of their country and their king. Now, Lady Macduff's answer is pretty similar. She says, why, one that swears and lies? And we know that Macbeth has lied in order to get to the throne, as well as doing a bit of killing. And the son says, and be all traitors that do so. Lady Macduff, everyone that does so is a traitor and must be hanged. Now, I don't know how serious she's being here, but the son kind of takes this, well, everybody lies, don't they? Must they all be hanged that swear and lie? Well, if everyone who swears and lies is a traitor and must be hanged, that's an awful lot of people. Lady Macduff says, everyone. The son, who must hang them? Why, the honest men. And the son comes to the logical conclusion here. Then the liars and swearers are fools, for there are liars and swearers enough to beat the honest men and hang them up. So the son thinks, well, everyone lies and swears. Well, most people do anyway. Therefore, they should just turn against the honest people and hang them instead. Now, this interaction with the son is pretty cheeky, it's pretty sweet, it's got this family atmosphere, this positive relationship between the son and the mother. Every single thing that is lacking in the home of Macbeth and Lady Macbeth. And Lady Macduff then says, now God help thee, poor monkey, but how wilt thou do for a father? If he were dead, you'd weep for him. If you would not, it were a good sign that I should quickly have a new father. Per prattler, how thou talk'st. Okay, so what is your impression of the son? Stop the video, jot down a couple of ideas, start the video again when you're ready. So the main ideas that I get from this scene is that he's innocent and he's blameless. So he doesn't really know what's going on. He's a child, so he has no involvement whatsoever in any treachery. He's totally blameless in this. He's going to be an innocent victim of Macbeth's tyranny. And he's witty, he's cheeky, he's clever, he's really quite a likeable little boy, and he has a really good relationship with his mum. Okay, but then the scene takes an even darker turn, and another messenger arrives, and he says, bless you, fair dame, I am not to you known, though in your state of honour I am perfect. I doubt some danger does approach you nearly. If you will take a homely man's advice, be not found here, hence with your little ones. To fright you thus, methinks I am too savage. To do worse to you were fell cruelty, which is too nigh your person. Heaven preserve you, I dare abide no longer. So the messenger brings news of danger that's approaching, and then he runs away. So we've got a third man who comes in to the castle and then disappears. We've had Macduff, he's left, gone to England. Ross has been there, he's been a bit wary and he's left. And now the messenger, he legs it as well. And Lady Macduff says, whither should I fly? Like, where am I going to go? Got all these children, how am I going to keep them safe? She says, I have done no harm. So again, Shakespeare is emphasising the innocence of the victims of murder. But I remember now, I'm in this earthly world where to do no harm is often laudable. To do good sometime accounted dangerous folly. Why then, alas, do I put up that womanly defence to say I have done no harm? And then she changes, what are these faces? So she says, I've not done anything, I shouldn't be being hunted by Macbeth, this has nothing to do with me. And then the murderers come in and she says, what are these faces? Basically, who are you? And the first murderer, where is your husband? Now, Lady Macduff is not one to kind of just give in easily. So she responds, I hope in no place so unsanctified where such as thou mayst find him. Unsanctified means unholy. So to be sanctified means a holy place, like a sanctuary, like a church or an altar or something like that. So somewhere unsanctified is unholy. We've seen a couple of unholy places in the play so far. The heath and the cave where Macbeth meet the witches would be unsanctified places, or hell would be an unsanctified place. Anyway, what she's saying is she hopes he's not in an unholy place because that's the kind of place where you guys would go. Anyway, it's a bit of a taunt. And the first murderer says he's a traitor. Now the son kind of comes out at this point and says, thou liest, thou shag-eared villain. So he's saying his father is not a traitor, and he's kind of squaring up to this first murderer. So think about this visually on the stage. You've got the murderers coming in, they're armed to the teeth, they're probably big burly guys, and then you've got the little boy running up to them trying to defend his dad's honour. And the first murderer says, what, you egg? Now, when I teach this, people normally find this kind of funny, because it seems like a bit of an absurd thing for the murderer to say. But think about the imagery of an egg. They're fragile, they're easily broken. So the murderer is saying to him, you know, basically, you're a silly little boy. I can easily kill you, which is what he then does. He stabs him. Young fry of treachery. And then the son says, he has killed me, mother, run away, I pray you. And Lady Macduff exits, pursued by the murderers, and we know that she and then the rest of her children are killed. Now again, think about the contrast with the other murders that have happened in the play already. Duncan has been killed off stage. Banquo has been killed on stage. Now we have another on stage killing, but this time it is the killing of a child. So Macbeth has really turned a corner. He's not just killing people who pose a threat to his hold on the crown. He's now killing people just, well, what even is the reason for this? To spread fear, to spread cruelty, to insist that he controls everybody. Who knows? But we have the killing of a child on the stage. Now, big question for us. Although Macbeth doesn't appear in this scene, it is a turning point for his character. Why is that? Okay, so stop the video, jot down your ideas, and then start the video again when you're ready. Right, got 3 thoughts for you. So the scene's a turning point for Macbeth's morality. He's now prepared to kill completely innocent women and children. The scene also reveals the true horror of Macbeth's tyranny. His cruelty and violence spreads throughout Scotland. And the scene reveals Macbeth's obsession with destroying other people's children. He doesn't have any children of his own. He's worried that other people's children will try and take the throne from him. So he has gone on this rampage. First, he's tried to get Fleance killed. It's been unsuccessful. And now he's killing Macduff's children instead. Okay, a pretty bleak scene. In the next scene, we're going to have a big shift because we're going to go to England with Malcolm and Macduff. So I will see you then.